The 6 most important end times prophecies that the rabbis, shepherds, pastors, prophets, priests leave out due to the prophecies implicating the destructive light that it shines upon them. These 6 biblical prophecies, though virtually unheard of, are probably the most important to the children of God in these times. Number 1, the end time, last days destruction of the religions. Through the destruction of their shepherd, pastors, prophets, and priests. We all realize this, but don't admit it. As per the Bible, only God's religion and God's government will exist during the Sabbath of the age. There will be no other religion or government left. Number 2, the calling out of the loyal children of God from the world's governments and various religions by God Himself. Number 3, the assignment of new servants to shepherd, lead the children of God. Number 4, the end of wage and interest slavery upon the children of God. Number 5, a spectacular gathering of the loyal children of God to communities or the community of God of all the true children of God. Adopted or not, Israel means children of God. Every one of them from every part of the world will be gathered. So remarkable is this great exodus that this exodus and the freedom from slavery from every religion and government that future generations, as per Jeremiah, will speak of this exodus during the Pesac Seder, Passover story, so much so that it will become the dominant theme of this Exodus story during Pesac Seder. It will be the dominant story told over the Egyptian Exodus story. This last day's rescue, gathering, and Exodus recollection will be so much more greater and more wonderful than the Exodus one. Number 6, God gathers, protects, and hides His loyal children of God in the wilderness for 3.5 years during the tribulation. And while His Son Yeshua pours out judgment on the wicked, His children are fed in the wilderness. These prophecies are for our time. And just so you understand the time frame of these prophecies, let's read Jeremiah 23:19 through 20. The King James Version. The later versions were changed, but this one still reads more correctly. Behold, the whirlwind of the Lord is gone forth in fury, even a grievous whirlwind. It shall fall grievously upon the head of the wicked. The anger of the Lord shall not return until He has executed and until He has performed the thoughts of His heart. In the latter days ye shall consider it perfectly. So, in the latter days, we will consider it perfectly. Let's do some considering. Okay, number 1, the end times, last days destruction of religions and shepherds, prophets, and priests. Only God's religion and government will exist during the Sabbath of the age, no other. In that, Jeremiah and Ezekiel are to the point concerning this gathering, or the removal of the religions and governments. I will be using them, and not so much Isaiah and Hosea, which also prophesy about this, but I'm more than willing to let you read them for yourselves. So let's compare the Ezekiel and Jeremiah prophecies about the destruction of the religions, starting with their foundation of false pastors, priests, and prophets in the last days. I know many of you are saying, oh, my religion and pastor is safe, but listen to and play it back as many times as you need to, the verses and scriptures, and then pray about it. God destroys them all and calls you out by His Spirit, calls His new servants for you, 144,000, and gives you his son as your new shepherd, and they gather you all home. God does not leave out one of his loyal children, and you are all gathered to his communities, his kingdom. And according to Ezekiel, if you are adopted into Israel, you are assigned to a tribe of Israel. This gathering obviously has not happened. As the world's governments implode on themselves, persecution and oppression increases, as well as earthquakes, storms, famine, plagues, pestilence, volcanoes, and the final great war, so the lawless one comes into power. In the midst of this, the lawless one starts a war on the children of God. A great deliverance and gathering will happen. Also, so far during the Seder dinner, we have not been talking about the last day's deliverance from slavery, the great last day's exodus, the gathering as something that happened during Pesac, during the Passover story, so much so that the Egyptian story takes a back seat to it. Jeremiah 23:1. Woe to the shepherds who are destroying and scattering the sheep of my pasture, declares the Lord. Therefore, this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says to the shepherds who tend my people. Because you have scattered my flock and driven them away, and have not bestowed care on them, I will bestow punishment on you for the evil you have done, declares the Lord. Now let's compare Ezekiel to what Jeremiah said or prophesied. Ezekiel 34, the word of the Lord came to me. Verse 2, Son of man, prophesy against the shepherds of Israel. Prophesy and say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Woe to the shepherds of Israel, who only take care of yourselves. Should not shepherds take care of the flock? You eat the curds, clothe yourselves with the wool, and slaughter the choice animals, but you do not take care of the flock. You have not strengthened the weak, or healed the sick, or bound the injured. You have not brought back the strays, or searched for the lost. You have ruled them brutally. My sheep wandered all over the mountains and on every hill. They were scattered over the whole earth, and no one searched or looked for them. Oh, it just gets better. God explains in more detail why he destroys the religions in the last days, and it is in the last days this prophecy is talking about. I noticed that the latest translations of the Bible no longer say the latter days in Jeremiah 23, but let's read what the King James explains as a time frame for this prophecy. Jeremiah 23:19 through 20. Verse 20. In the latter days ye shall consider it perfectly. Have you ever considered these before? Ezekiel 34. Therefore you shepherds, hear the word of the Lord. As surely as I live, declares the sovereign Lord, because my flock lacks a shepherd, and so has been plundered, and has become food for all the wild animals, and because my shepherds did not search for my flock, but cared for themselves rather than for my flock. Therefore you shepherds, hear the word of the Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says. I am against the shepherds, and will hold them accountable for my flock. I will remove them from tending the flock, so that the shepherds can no longer feed themselves. I will rescue my flock from their mouths, and it will no longer be food for them. Looking at the thousands of religions, presently this has not been fulfilled. The flock of God is still being depowered and devoured by the wolves. And in verse 18 of Ezekiel 34, it is not enough for you to feed on the good pasture. Must you also trample the rest of your pasture with your feet? Is it not enough for you to drink clear water? Must you also muddy the rest with your feet? Must my flock feed on what you have trampled, and drink what you have muddled under your feet? Therefore this is what the sovereign Lord says to them. See, I myself will judge between the fat sheep and the lean sheep, because you shoved with flank and shoulder, butting the weak sheep with your horns until you have driven them away. Concerning Jeremiah 23:9, concerning the prophets, my heart is broken within me. My bones tremble. I am like a drunken man, like a strong man overcome by wine because of the Lord and his holy words. The land is full of adulterers because of the curse. The land lies parched, and the pastures in the wilderness withered. The prophets follow an evil course and use their power unjustly. Both prophet and priest are godless. Even in the temple I find their wickedness, declares the Lord. And as a side note here, the temple has not been rebuilt, and the lawless one has not declared himself God yet. So, verse 12, therefore their path will become slippery. They will be banished to darkness, and there they will fall. I will bring disaster on them in the year they are punished, declares the Lord. 13, among the prophets of Samaria I saw this repulsive thing, prophesied by Baal, and led my people astray. And among the prophets of Jerusalem I have seen something horrible. They commit adultery and live a lie. They strengthen the hands of evildoers, so that no one of them turns from their wickedness. They are like Sodom. The people of Jerusalem are like Gomorrah. Therefore, this is what the Lord Almighty says concerning the prophets. I will make them eat bitter food and drink poisoned water, because from the prophets of Jerusalem ungodliness has spread throughout the land. Jeremiah 23:21. I did not send these prophets, yet they have run their message. I did not speak to them, yet they have prophesied. 22. But if they had stood in my counsel, they would have proclaimed my words to my people and would have turned them from their evil ways and from their evil deeds. 25. I have heard what the prophets say who prophesy lies in my name. They say, I had a dream. I had a dream. How long will this continue in the hearts of these lying prophets who prophesy the delusions of their own minds? They think the dreams they tell one another will make my people forget my name, just as their ancestors forgot my name through Baal worship. Let the prophet who has a dream recount the dream, but let the one who has my words speak it faithfully. For what has straw to do with grain, declares the Lord. And then verse 31, yes, declares the Lord, I am against the prophets who wag their own tongues and yet declare, the Lord declares. Indeed, I am against those who prophesy false dreams, declares the Lord. They tell them and lead my people astray with their reckless lies, yet I did not send or appoint them. They do not benefit these people in the least, declares the Lord. Okay, the calling out of the children of God from the world's enslaving governments and religions by God himself. So while God is exposing and destroying the religions and false religions of this world, he personally, by his Spirit, to our spirits, calls us out, his children, from every part of the world to gather us home to his community. Jeremiah 23 verse 3. I myself gather the remnant of my flock out of the countries where I have driven them, and will bring them back to their pastures, where they will be fruitful and increase in number. Let's compare Ezekiel's prophecy. Ezekiel 34:11. For this is what my sovereign Lord says, I myself will search for my sheep and look after them. As a shepherd looks after his scattered flock when he is with them, so I look after my sheep. I will rescue them from all places where they were scattered on a day of clouds and darkness. On a day of clouds and darkness. I will bring them out of the nations and gather them from the countries. I will bring them into their own land. I'll pasture them on the mountains of Israel, in ravines and in all the settlements in the I will tend them in good pasture, and the mountain heights of Israel will be their grazing land. There they will lie down in good grazing land, and there they will feed in rich pasture on the mountains of Israel. Now, back to Jeremiah 23:16. This is what the Lord Almighty says. Do not listen to what the prophets are prophesying to you. They will fill you with false hopes. They speak visions from their own minds, not from the mouth of the Lord. Jeremiah 23:34. If a prophet or priest or anyone else claims, this is a message from the Lord, I will punish them and their household. Jeremiah 23:39. Okay, so the assignment of new shepherds to the children of God, to God's called out ones. Jeremiah 23, verse 4. I will place shepherds over them who will tend them, and they will no longer be afraid or terrified, nor will any be missing, declares the Lord. So he gathers them all, or gives them all new shepherds, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in the foreheads. Okay, so Revelation 7, verse 3 is the calling of these servants, the 144,000 that will replace the false shepherds. Okay, so Revelation 7, verse 3, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads. And I heard the number of them which were sealed, and they were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. After this, going down to verse 9, I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations, and kindreds, and peoples, and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. Down to verse 13. And one of the elders answered, saying unto me, what are these which are arrayed in white robes, and whence came they? And this is a clue for later on. And I said unto him, Sir, thou knowest. And he said to me, these are they which came out of the great tribulation, and I washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Okay, so the next part is the freeing of the children of God from their slavery. And if you read the Torah, you understand that charging interest is a form of thievery and slavery. And also, to be a slave back then, you were paid wages. You're basically a wage slave, and so you could be a slave in two different ways. You could work for someone else, not owning a business, and you could be paying interest on a loan. So we're going to be freed from that. So a spectacular gathering of all the children of God. Israel means children of God, every one of them from every part of the world. So spectacular is this great exodus, that the exodus and the freedom from slavery, that future generations will speak of it during the Pesac Seder. This greater exodus will dominate the lesser exodus from Egypt when they're reciting the Passover Seder. Recall from events in the Bible, the 10 tribes were scattered into Europe. They went north from when they were taken captive into Syria, and went across the Black Sea into where we call Crimea now, and they eventually scattered all over Europe. Part of them also went into the Iberian Peninsula, but scattered all over the world. Mingled with all the peoples. At the time of these prophecies that we're talking about now, Judah and Benjamin had not been scattered yet. So they have a different gathering prophecy, and these prophecies are about to gather now Israel. Jeremiah 23 verse 3, I myself will gather the remnant of my flock out of all the countries where I have driven them, and will bring them back to their pasture. They will be fruitful and increase in number. Verse 4, I will place shepherds over them who will tend them, and they will no longer be afraid or terrified, nor will any be missing, declares the Lord. Okay. If we go back to Jeremiah 16, verse 14, the Lord also explains this. He says, However, the days are coming, declares the Lord, when it will no longer be said, as surely as the Lord lives, who brought the Israelites out of Egypt, but it will be said, as surely as the Lord lives, who brought the Israelites up out of the land of the north and out of all the countries where he had banished them, for I will restore them to the land of their ancestors. Okay, so Ezekiel 36, verse 24. For I will take you from among the nations, gather you out of all the countries, and bring you into your own land. Then I will sprinkle clean water on you, and you shall be clean. I will cleanse you from your filthiness and from your idols. I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you. I will take the heart of stone of your flesh and give you a heart of flesh. I will put my spirit within you and cause you to walk in my statutes, and you will keep my judgments and do them. Then you shall dwell in the land that I gave your fathers. You shall be my people, and I will be your God. I will deliver you from all uncleanness. I will call for the grain and multiply it, and bring no famine upon you. Let it be known to you. Be ashamed and confounded of your own ways, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord God, on that day I will cleanse you from all your iniquities. I will also enable you to dwell in the cities. Okay, so the next part is the freeing. The freeing of the wage slave. Interesting. Still part of this part, but it's the coming of the King, his salvation and judgment. Let's see what it says in Ezekiel and Jeremiah. Okay, so Ezekiel 34. They will know that I am the Lord when I break the bars of their yoke and rescue them from the hands of those who have enslaved them. Revelation 13:6. And the beast opened its mouth to speak blasphemies against God and to slander his name and his tabernacle, those who dwell in heaven. And then the beast was permitted to wage war against the saints and to conquer them. And it was given authority over every tribe and people and tongue and nation. Now Jeremiah 23:3. I myself will gather the remnant of my flock out of all the countries where I have driven them. I will bring them back to their pasture where they have been, will be fruitful and increase in number. For I will place shepherds over them who will tend them, and they will no longer be afraid or terrified, nor will any be missing, declares the Lord. Revelation 12, verse 6. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. Okay, so Isaiah 13:10. During the tribulation, so for the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in its going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. I will punish the world for their evil, and the wicked for their iniquity, and I will cause the arrogance of the proud to cease. I will lay low haughtiness of the terrible. I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man than the gold wedge of Ophir. Therefore I will shake the heavens, and the earth shall remove out of her place in the wrath of the Lord of hosts, and in the day of his fierce anger. And it shall be as the chase roe, and as the sheep that no man taketh up. They shall every man turn to his own people, and flee everyone into his own land. Everyone that is found shall be thrust through, and everyone that is joined unto them shall fall by the sword. Jeremiah 23:20. Behold, the whirlwind of the Lord is gone forth in fury, even a grievous whirlwind. It shall fall grievously upon the head of the wicked. The anger of the Lord shall not return until he has executed, till he has performed the thoughts of his heart. In the latter days he shall consider it perfectly. Okay, back to Isaiah 10. And this is taken from the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's an Old Testament called translation from the Dead Sea Scrolls called Ben Uzil. Okay, Isaiah 10:11. Thus saith the Lord, the Holy One of Israel, and he that formed him. I should say that again. Thus saith the Lord, the Holy One of Israel, and he that formed him. Ye question me about things concerning my people, what shall come to pass? And will ye command me concerning the work of my power? It is I who have made the earth by my word, and I have created upon it. It is I who have suspended the heavens by my power, and I have laid the foundation of the hosts of them. It is I who will verily bring him forth publicly, and all his paths I will direct. He shall build my city, and he shall let the captives of my people go, not for price or money, saith the Lord of hosts. Isaiah 10, Dead Sea Scrolls again, verse 22. Turn unto my word, and be saved, all that are at the ends of the earth, for I am the Lord, and there is none else. I have sworn by my word, the word is gone forth in righteousness from my presence, and shall not fail, that before me every knee shall bow, every tongue shall swear. Surely he has promised to bring me righteousness and strength by the word of the Lord. In his word they shall offer praise, and all the nations that are incensed against his people shall be ashamed. In the word of the Lord all the seed of Israel shall be justified and glorified. Isaiah 12, Dead Sea Scrolls again. Verse 1, and thou shalt say at that time, I will confess before thee, Lord, for that I have sinned before thee. Thine anger is upon me, but when I return to the law, thine anger will turn from me, and thou wilt have mercy on me. Behold, in the word of God is my salvation. I am trusting, and shall not be moved, because my strength and my praise is the fear of the Lord. He has spoken by his word. He is become my Savior.